The dark truth behind the Salem Witch Trials. At the haunting legacy of Salem, the Salem Witch Trials, a dark chapter in history that forever changed how we understand fear, justice, and the cost of mass hysteria. But what if the story is even darker than we've been told? Behind the tales of witches and trials lies a chilling truth, one about power, greed, and the fragility of trust. Could the Salem Witch Trials hold lessons for the modern world? What power struggles and human weaknesses hid behind these accusations of witchcraft? Let us journey into Salem's past to uncover the truths that still haunt us today. To the seeds of suspicion, life before the trials. In 1692, life in Salem was unforgiving. Harsh winters froze the land, food was scarce, and disease was a constant threat. Survival was a daily battle, and faith was their only anchor. The Puritans believed they were God's chosen people, sent to this new world to build a holy society. But with that belief came an overwhelming fear. Fear of failure, fear of divine punishment, and fear of the devil lurking in the shadows. But it wasn't just the devil they feared. Beneath their devout exterior, Salem was a town divided by jealousy and mistrust. Land disputes turned neighbors into enemies, and whispered rumors carried the weight of truth. Paranoia ran deep. Every setback, a poor harvest, an illness, was seen as a sign of sin or a curse. Salem was a fragile community, a tinderbox waiting for a single spark. What happens when a community ruled by faith turns to fear? Can a society built on trust survive the weight of paranoia? The accusations begin. A storm of fear. The winter of 1692 marked the beginning of Salem's descent into chaos. In the home of Reverend Samuel Parris, fear took root, and soon it would consume the entire town. Betty Parris and Abigail Williams, the young daughter and niece of Reverend Parris, began exhibiting strange and terrifying behavior, writhing on the floor, screaming and speaking in languages no one understood. To the deeply religious Puritans, there was only one explanation: witchcraft. The blame fell quickly on Tituba, the enslaved woman in the Parris household. Her foreign origins and spiritual traditions made her an easy target. Under intense interrogation, Tituba confessed to practicing dark magic. But was her confession the truth or the result of fear and coercion? Tituba's confession unleashed a storm of fear. Soon, names were being whispered throughout Salem. Accusations spread like wildfire, and neighbors turned on each other, desperate to root out the supposed servants of the devil. Narration duration: 10 seconds. But what if the cause of these symptoms wasn't witchcraft at all? Historians have speculated that ergot poisoning caused by a fungus on contaminated rye might have led to hallucinations and convulsions. Others suggest trauma, stress, or even manipulation by the girls themselves. Whatever the cause, one thing was certain: the people of Salem believed the devil was among them, and in their fear, they would stop at nothing to root him out. Trial hysteria. Justice or madness? In 1692, Salem's courtrooms transformed into battlegrounds, not of justice, but of chaos. What began as whispers turned into deafening accusations, tearing apart families, friendships, and faith. The trials relied heavily on spectral evidence, claims that witches sent their spirits to torment others in dreams or visions. This intangible proof was impossible to disprove, and yet it sealed the fate of many. Imagine standing before a room filled with fear-stricken neighbors, accused of crimes you cannot see, hear, or prove false. How do you defend yourself against nightmares and shadows? The accusations ranged from the bizarre to the impossible: flying on broomsticks, turning into animals, signing pacts with the devil. Even children were not spared from these outlandish claims. Families turned on one another, driven by fear. Mothers accused daughters. Husbands testified against wives. The bonds of trust were shattered, replaced by paranoia and betrayal. Was this justice, or the madness of a community consumed by fear? Did the people of Salem truly believe in the devil's presence, or were they swept up in a storm of hysteria they could no longer control? The human toll, victims of fear. The Salem Witch Trials weren't just about accusations and trials. They were about lives lost, families shattered, and a community left to bear the weight of its own fear. Rebecca Nurse, a name that symbolized kindness and faith. A grandmother and devout Christian, she was beloved in Salem, but her reputation couldn't save her from suspicion. And then there was Giles Corey, the 81-year-old farmer who refused to plead. For his defiance, he was pressed under heavy stones. His final words were defiant. More weight. The victims weren't just those who died. Their families bore the scars of shame and grief. Mothers without sons, children without fathers. These weren't witches. They were fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. Salem's fear destroyed trust and left behind wounds no apology could heal. Was this justice, or a failure of humanity's greatest test? Could Salem's fear have been stopped before it was too late? Aftermath, a town in shame. When the dust of the Salem Witch Trials finally settled, the town was left fractured, its people haunted by the weight of their actions. Fear had consumed them, leaving behind a legacy of pain and regret. But could Salem ever truly atone for what it had done? The trials officially ended in 1693, but the damage was done. Judges who had once condemned the innocent began to realize the enormity of their mistakes. Public apologies were issued, and families of the victims were offered restitution. But could money or words ever heal the wounds inflicted by fear and ignorance? Salem was no longer the same town. Families who had turned on each other now lived as neighbors, their relationships fractured beyond repair. Suspicion lingered, and the trust that once bound the community was gone. But out of tragedy came change. The Salem Witch Trials became a pivotal moment in American history, a lesson in the dangers of hysteria and unchecked power. Spectral evidence, the dreams and visions used to condemn so many, was rejected in future legal practices. Salem's past left scars that can still be felt today. Memorials now stand where lives were taken, a quiet reminder of the cost of fear. But can a town haunted by its own history ever truly move forward? Or does Salem's shadow stretch into our own time, warning us to remain vigilant against hysteria? The scars of Salem may never fade, but its lessons endure. The Salem Witch Trials in modern media. The Salem Witch Trials, once a grim chapter in history, now a story retold in theaters, on screens, and in pop culture. But why does this dark tale continue to captivate us? Is it a search for understanding, or an escape into its haunting allure? Arthur Miller's The Crucible transformed Salem's story into a powerful allegory for McCarthyism, the political witch hunts of the 1950s. Through the paranoia of Salem, Miller revealed the dangers of fear-driven accusations and societal scapegoating. The message? History doesn't just repeat itself, it evolves in terrifying ways. But not all portrayals of Salem lean into its tragedy. Films like Hocus Pocus and series like The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina reimagine the trials as whimsical tales of witches, curses, and the supernatural. These adaptations blend history with fantasy, capturing imaginations while steering away from the harsh truths of the past. These adaptations have done more than entertain. They've turned Salem into a cultural phenomenon. Films, books, and merchandise inspired by the trials have generated millions, cementing Salem's place in pop culture. But why do we keep revisiting Salem? Is it to better understand our past, to confront our own fears, or simply to escape into its dark, fantastical allure? The Salem Witch Trials weren't just about witches. They were about fear, power, and the cracks in human society. But what truly caused the hysteria? Was it something as simple as a poisoned crop? Or were darker forces at play? One theory suggests that the cause of the Salem Witch Trials was rooted in nature, not magic. Ergot, a toxic fungus found in rye crops, produces hallucinations and convulsions when consumed, symptoms eerily similar to those exhibited by the accusers in Salem. But not all causes were natural. Beneath Salem's surface was a web of human greed and jealousy. Land disputes and rivalries between families turned accusations into weapons. In a town where property meant survival, a single claim of witchcraft could shift the balance of power. Many of Salem's accused were women, widows, midwives, and outcasts who didn't conform to societal expectations. The trials weren't just about witchcraft. They revealed a deeply ingrained fear of women's independence and influence. What makes Salem's story even more chilling is its relevance today. Mass hysteria, scapegoating, and moral panics aren't confined to history books. They echo in modern society. From political witch hunts to social media outrage, Salem's lessons remain as urgent as ever. Was the Salem Witch Trials a tragedy born of superstition, or the inevitable result of human nature's darker tendencies? Could these hidden truths hold the key to preventing future hysteria? Lessons for today. Could Salem happen again? The Salem Witch Trials may seem like a relic of the past, but are they? Beneath the ashes of history lies a chilling truth. The seeds of Salem's hysteria are not confined to one era. They can still take root today. Salem was a town consumed by fear, driven by whispers and suspicion. Today, we see echoes of that hysteria in moral panics, cancel culture, and conspiracy theories. The tools may have changed, but the danger remains the same. The Salem trials were fueled by the breakdown of trust, neighbors turning against neighbors, friends accusing friends. It's a reminder of how fragile reason becomes in a divided society. What Salem teaches us is this: fear is a powerful force. It can twist justice, destroy trust, and divide even the closest communities. But it also teaches us that reflection and understanding can prevent history from repeating itself. Have we truly learned from Salem, or are we doomed to repeat its mistakes in new forms? In a world driven by division and suspicion, the lessons of Salem may be more relevant than ever. Shadows of Salem. The Salem Witch Trials weren't just a tragedy of the past. They're a mirror reflecting humanity's darkest fears, unbridled power, and the fragility of trust. They weren't about witches. They were about us. The story of Salem is a reminder of how quickly fear can erode reason, how power can corrupt, and how silence can allow injustice to thrive. But it's also a testament to courage, the courage of those who stood firm against madness, even in the face of death. Which part of this story resonates with you the most? Is it the bravery of the victims, the community's fall from grace, or the lessons we still struggle to learn today? But Salem is just one story. Next time, we'll journey into another legend, the mysterious life of Robin Hood. Was he a selfless hero or a cunning villain? Find out in The Secret Life of Robin Hood, Hero or Villain. If this journey through Salem has captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join us for more untold stories of history and legend. And in the comments, tell us, what does Salem mean to you today?